All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, the college football edition of Unqualified Analysis for the final week of the regular season. Merciful for your boy because my team stinks. Maybe not so merciful for some other people out there. We'll get into all that. Wild rivalry week this past weekend. Lots of upsets. What else is new for this season? It was a chaotic regular season, the most chaotic we've had in quite some time, and you simply love to see it. But I mean, we had flag planting, brawls stemming from flag planting, and a whole lot of drama going on. So we're going to get into all of that. Then I got 3 more picks to add to bring our grand total for the week to 5 as we go into the weekend. And obviously, we'll hit on the college football playoff rankings. And as I speak now, I do recall that I did forget one game here. I forgot the Monday night game, and I'm gonna recap that. We're not gonna have a repeat of whatever it was like a week or two ago, where I just inexplicably forgot to go over the Monday night game. No. It's a banger. It featured Jameis Winston, so we're gonna go over that here in just a second. But I am your quarterback here, I suppose, the quarterback of this podcast, Caleb. You can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. Link is down in the description for that and all the stuff you need to get in contact with me if you so choose. However, we're done bloviating at the top of the show. A lot to get into. Hopefully, I can be a little concise about this. There's a whole lot going on and a whole lot of headlines that explosions happening after the regular season wraps up. So with that in mind, let's get into the Monday night game. Just gonna roll right into this thing. Let me get another gulp of this here Gatorade. Perfect, love that. And we'll hit the ground running. Okay, so the Browns went on the road on Monday night. Jameis Winston starting. He was an absolute, quote, machine in this game. I mean, from the post-game press conference to the pregame, obviously every pregame interview is just absolute gold when it comes to Jameis Winston. Then, I mean, we're talking about the QB comparison video where he's just eating W's and just acting like a goofy son of a bitch on live TV. Love that. However, the Browns did lose 41-32. Also, I would like to mention Jameis Winston is my MVP for sure, because if you were betting alongside me, you felt the thrill as in the final minutes, Broncos up by 2 points. The Browns even have a chance to win this thing. That bet, that -5.5, dead in the water, dead on arrival. I was falling asleep, just depressed on my couch, watching the end of this game, but I figured, you know what? It's a good game. We'll see it through till the very end. It could be fun, right? Hey, it was absolutely fun because then we got the pick 6 with like a minute and a half left or something like that. Run it back for a touchdown. We get the cover. Jameis Winston is good for everybody, really. I mean, well, maybe not everybody, and you can go look up the past of Jameis Winston there, but I digress on that front. I'll let you do your own research on that. But, I mean, hey, Jameis Winston, you're a classy guy. Classy guy thinking about us bettors out there. I hope you weren't, because you're going to be suspended forever if that is the case. But, hey, we love you, Jameis. We love you. But the Broncos now, man, 8-5. Obviously, they get the win 41-32. Absolute shootout in this game. It was a whole lot of offense. That's for damn sure, and that is not exactly what I expected coming into this game, especially with the way it started off. Bo Nix getting an interception right off the bat. Jameis Winston throwing interceptions as well. Threw a couple of them very late. Oh, excuse me. Should have waited for the aftershocks. I apologize on that. But, that the Broncos still 8-5. They showed that they could win in multiple ways. Bo Nix continues to seemingly improve week after week. The Broncos, they got something going on here, man. Like I said, 8-5, very much in position for a playoff spot here when it's all said and done. They keep winning. They're going to go to the playoffs, man. That's kind of how this whole thing works. But hey, they've been much better than I expected. I thought they were one of the worst rosters in the entire league coming into this season. But that was not the case. And I'm pleasantly surprised by that. Sean Payton's done a hell of a job this year, especially when it comes to developing Bo Nix. That's been nothing short of a masterclass as far as where he started to where he is now. He went a whole half and threw for negative yards earlier in the season. Just a month and a half ago, I believe it was. So that was not long ago. And now he is, playing like one of, if not the best rookie quarterbacks in the entire league at the moment. It's impressive. It's impressive. So, very impressed with the Broncos. We don't take them seriously as a championship contender, but it's not all about winning championships every single year. What you got going on right now with a rookie quarterback, that's valuable. That's real valuable, and I'm excited to see what they do down the stretch. I think they have one more matchup with the Chiefs, so almost beat them last time. Let me make sure that's accurate, actually, because that totally could be completely wrong. So, Chiefs last week of the season. So, Chiefs, with the way they're winning right now, they might ultimately be resting starters that week, but that'd be even better for the Broncos, I would say. Although, hey, if the Broncos keep winning, they could be in that position as well. They could easily win the next three. Obviously, the Chargers and the Bengals on the road in back-to-back weeks, not great, but you get the Colts next week, so you should, and that's at home, so you should get to 9 wins there. And then if you just kind of split the difference between Bengals and Chargers, you're playing the Bengals on the road, which is actually advantageous because they physically have a revulsion to winning in their home stadium, really just winning in general. They're not a very good team this year. But if you just win one of those two, you get to 10 wins, you're probably good to go. Probably need to win anyways, but if the Chiefs are resting starters in that last week, which, like I said, if they keep winning like they're doing, it's probably going to happen. They could have a nice little soft landing spot to maybe get to 11 wins here down the stretch. And, hey, the Broncos, man, they're not bad. Hey, crown them now. Broncos, not bad. Not bad at all. With that said, let's beat it, NFL. That's it for week 13, I believe. 13, 14. This week is week 14, so yeah, 13. That's it for that week. Anywho's, let's go over to the college football rivalry week happened, folks. And boy, was it electric. Fantastic rivalry week. You will hear no complaints from your boy over here. Obviously, where else will we start, man? Michigan goes on the road to Ohio State, and if this game had gone as expected, there would be no reason to talk about this one up top, but unfortunately for the Ohio State faithful, of which I know many at this point, and vibes are not great right now, and for Ryan Day especially, it ended with a Michigan win on the road, 13-10, resulted in one of the greatest videos in modern history, really. With really, might have exaggerated there a little bit, but with the video with the song from the soundtrack of Sicario playing over top of Michigan walking onto the field at Ohio State. The shot of the Michigan flag, the blue, just juxtaposed against the sea of red in the stands at Ohio State. That's something I'm not even really a fan of either of these teams, and that gave me goosebumps, man. That was special right there. But Michigan gets 5 in a row now, and this is probably the sweetest of all. Do I take them seriously? Absolutely not for this year, but you got Bryce Underwood coming in. Could be a whole lot worse. That's all I'm saying. It could be a whole lot worse for you right now. It's a hell of a win to go into the offseason. I'll say that. I think it'll probably help out with recruiting going forward, especially since they kicked their offensive coordinator to the curb. And I did forget about the headlines for coaching. There were quite a few of those, so we'll put a pin in this recap to go back to that after we're done talking about this game. A lot happened in this game, man. You get to the end of it, everything is done. Not only does Ryan Day lose his 5th straight, the team is in shambles. Michigan starts off the day bright at high noon with the eyes of the world on him and just goes out to midfield with the Michigan flag, attempts to plant said Michigan flag, and of course, that sets off a brawl. Michigan players are throwing fists at Ohio State players. Michigan players are getting pepper sprayed. I think an Ohio State player or two got pepper sprayed as well, but they only showed the Michigan players on the TV in the aftermath of being pepper sprayed. Little excessive, but the brawl was going on for quite some time, so you gotta diffuse it somehow. You'd prefer it not go to pepper spray, and I still think that's a little excessive. But the police involved, got it broken up. Might the fact that they are Ohio policemen in Ohio State minutes after losing for the 5th straight time to their hated rival Michigan, could it possibly be a factor in why they were so quick to pepper spray? You could make an argument. But we don't know that for sure, and I don't really think anyone's probably going to get disciplined over that, and it's pretty minor in, all things considered. Nothing crazy happened on that front. So that started a trend, though. The flag planting followed by the brawl that continued throughout the day, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at length throughout this throughout this recap here. But yeah, I just want to talk about mostly Ohio State here, and Ryan Day in specific, because you knew what the stakes were here, Ryan Day. I think everyone who has followed college football and knows the dynamics here at play knew what was happening when it came to this Michigan game. It was either you win this or you're going to have to win a national championship in order to keep your job if you're Ryan Day. And lo and behold, he loses this game. Ohio State still pretty much locked into the playoff at this point. I think they dropped down to 8, I want to say, maybe 9. Unsure exactly. We'll talk about the college football playoff rankings after we get through the recap. But man, I lost my train of thought there for a second. It's been a while since that happened. So Ryan Day, of course, talking about him. Obviously now he has to win a national... Okay, I'm back. Obviously has to win a national championship in order to keep his job at this point. He knew that going in. I'm sure he's well aware of that now. So that's the stakes right now going forward for Ohio State, and really for Ryan Day in general, is you can't afford another loss if you want to keep this job. And who's to say? I'm sure he wants to keep this job just because the stakes are so high, and those sorts of stakes and having those sorts of teams year after year is intoxicating, to say the least. So wouldn't blame him for wanting to stay there until they kick him out the door, which is, I assume, what he wants to do. But a little part of him has to be like, okay, this is just taking years off of my life at this point. I can't even hide the gray now because of how bad it's gotten. I can't just put Just for Men on my face 3 times a week and keep it just pitch black all the time. Just not an option anymore. So, hey, maybe there's a small part of him. I would assume there's a small part of him that's like, maybe it would be a little bit easier and a little bit more fun elsewhere to coach. But that Ohio State job, I think everyone in America is having their eyes on that. And I've heard the argument that that job, I mean, it would open up late because Ohio State's going to the playoffs. So you're talking like at the very earliest, like late December, when basically the whole coaching carousel is settled by that point. But just look at what Alabama did last year. They got through to the end of the season. They lose in the playoff. Inexplicably, they wait until all the way after the championship, and that was by design by Nick Saban. It's not inexplicable. He just didn't want to take the shine away from the national championship game. Good guy, I suppose. But sorry, I got distracted. But man, what the hell was I about to say? What the hell was... Oh, yeah, so the Ohio State job, if it does open up... I'm all over the place today. I apologize, folks. If the Ohio State job does open up, which it's going to, barring some sort of miracle for Ohio State, or really if they just get hot, if that opens up late, yeah, maybe... There's an argument that people are making that maybe it's going to be harder to go out and get any sort of candidate they want. I just like to point at Alabama last year, waited till after the national championship to part ways with Nick Saban to retire, and then lo and behold, they still just went out and got Kalen DeBoer, which I don't think was their first option, but also the first 2 options that they went to were reach options anyways, people that were already at powerhouses. I'm thinking of Dan Lanning in specific, who has shown steadfast commitment to Oregon, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon unless he gets like $100 million to go coach in the NFL or something like that. But even with that said, they still got Kalen DeBoer. They still put together, I mean, seemingly at the time, an all-star staff and the coaching staff. So maybe, I mean, and they had a couple transfer portal departures, but at the same time, they still had a hell of a recruiting class come in. They've still kept Ryan Williams in the building, and I think he might have actually been a late commit, come to think of it. So still got him in the building, still kept everything afloat pretty much. So that's really just a misnomer. I think you could fire the Ohio State head coach in like February, and you'd still be probably completely fine when it's all said and done and when it all shakes out. So no worries about that whatsoever. And that's Ohio State, a job just like Bama. They can go to literally anyone and ask them to be their head coach or put out feelers, and it's not unreasonable. I mean, obviously Sharon Moore withstanding, but literally everyone else, I could, in a heartbeat, it's reasonable for them to ask. It's not really that much of a reach. There are some reaches out there, as Alabama illustrated to us there previously, but those reaches are not unreasonable reaches. They're ones that are like, okay, let's just make them say no. Let's see what happens there, and maybe they have some mutual interest there, and then we can move forward. That job is basically wide open at this point. I'm sure they have their favorites. Heard Mike Vrabel obviously going around there, though I'm not sure that he's necessarily a college coach. I think at Ohio State he'd figure it out, but there'd be some growing pains there that I'm not sure the Ohio State faithful is patient enough for, quite frankly. But I mean, I think Bill Belichick's name got thrown out there by one of my coworkers, which, I mean, I think we both agreed not happening. He wouldn't be a very good college coach, but it's going to be really interesting to see what Ohio State does with that job. That's all I'm saying. They could go in any different direction, and I would not be surprised whatsoever. I would kind of anticipate a little bit more of a defensive philosophy from the head coach. So Mike Vrabel does fit there, but something to monitor. That's all I'm saying. It's something to monitor at this point. We've probably dwelled in this game a little bit too long, so let's just keep it moving from here. Let's just go back and take it chronologically, I suppose. So first upset of the week on Thanksgiving night, Memphis goes on the road to Tulane and gets the win 34-24, effectively ending any, glimmering, little baby twinkle of hope that Tulane had of going to the college football playoff. You can put that to rest now. 3-loss G5 teams never getting there. I think they are still going to the American Championship, but even so, they're simply not going to be ranked high enough. So there's that. Memphis finishes the regular season 10-2. Little golf clap for them. Georgia Tech went on the road to Georgia. This was on Black Friday, and they played an absolute banger. A banger for the ages, quite frankly. Only ruined by the terrible overtime format. So final score ends up being, well, you know what, let me just take you on a journey here. First and foremost, we're going into the final stretch of the game, and it looks like Georgia's going to lose this thing. They're down by 2 touchdowns with like 3-4 minutes left. They haven't been moving the ball real well all game. They went scoreless in the first half, in fact. Only had 13 points, I believe, up to that point, or 14 points. Can't remember exactly what it was, but you get it either way. So they get down the stretch. All of a sudden, Carson Beck gets hot. Georgia Tech gets cold on offense. Georgia goes down the field a couple of times. They tie this game. They send it to overtime. Okay, so we get to overtime, and this thing is just a marathon. I mean, it goes back and forth and back and forth. We get into the third overtime, and then all of a sudden, the worst overtime rules in all of professional sports rear their ugly head once again. We're having a 2-point conversion off. Everyone loves a 2-point conversion off. Who out there hasn't just gone into a 2-point conversion off just filled with excitement, Couldn't be me. And in addition to that, you have the 2-play overtime, which is dumb. One, they make you walk from one end of the field all the way to the other end of the field when when they're, getting in between 2-point plays, right? So they don't even do that in soccer, by the way. They just switch out. Well, actually, no. They have one team already on one side of the field and the other team already on their side of the field. You can do that in soccer because it's not a live ball sort of thing. Not exactly the case in football. You can return the 2-point conversions, but still, why don't you just keep them on the same end? I mean, it just makes no sense to me. I don't understand that part. And then in addition to that, they get a fresh timeout every single overtime. So before every single 2-point conversion attempt for Georgia Tech, Kirby Smart was just calling a timeout just so he could see the formation and then going back to the drawing board and drawing something up based on that. And that's exactly what you should do. You should take advantage of every single competitive advantage that is given to you, and Georgia absolutely did that. So I can't blame him there, but it's a dumb rule. Like, I don't really get the 2-point conversion off, but if you're going to do the 2-point conversion off, you got to have, just give them 2 timeouts at the beginning of the 2-point conversion off thing, and that's all you get until this game is over. I mean, that would be a better way to do it, I think, than just whatever this Mickey Mouse format is. Either way, you get down the stretch, Georgia Tech ultimately falls short. Georgia wins it in 8 overtimes, 1 short of the record. You may remember the hilarious game that we talked about very early on in this show. Illinois going on the road to Penn State, and I believe Illinois winning at a score of 21-19 in 9 overtimes. That's the record right now, which is hilarious score for a 9 overtime game. Just a funny score. You get the 9 overtimes, and you don't even crest. You don't even fully crest 40 points on the total for the game. That's Big Ten football right there, baby. But I digress. Georgia gets the win, as Joe Tessitore said about 57 times on the broadcast. This pretty much does lock Georgia into the playoff. With the newly released playoff rankings, pretty much confirms that, I would say. So they're going to the SEC championship. There would be hell to pay if they lose the SEC championship and they are kept out of the playoff. Just don't see that happening. So they're probably in at this point. Are they like a great team? No, there's really no great team this year. They're good. They're not great, and they're inconsistent as all hell. But their top end is still national title level. So they're in the dance. At this point, you have no excuse for getting up for every game because at this point, it's a playoff from here on out. You can make an argument for it not being a playoff in the SEC championship game, but might as well not leave anything up to chance. Win the game, get the first round bye, and live to play another day. Just get yourself straight into the second round that way. That's probably the ideal way to do it. So Georgia looking good. Georgia Tech, nothing to hang your head over. Brent Key is doing one hell of a job in Atlanta with Georgia Tech. I believe he just got a fresh new extension to go on top of that. So job well done. A good base to build off of. I don't know if they get Haynes King back next year or if he's a senior and he's graduating. Don't know the status of that, quite frankly, but you got a good base to build off. If you're getting talent in there, I think you, at this point, in a good way, fully rid yourself of the stink, well, not the stink, but the last vestiges of anything that resembled a triple option offense at Georgia Tech. It was there for so long that it takes a while to just rub that off of you. But hey, man, also shout out to Haynes King, by the way. 303 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 3 on the ground. Had the game of his life, quite frankly. But all the kudos in the world to Georgia Tech. You're building a good program over there, Brent Key. Also, I realize now we got through 3 games. I totally forgot to just go back and do the headlines, so I'm going to do that now. I once again apologize for being all over the place today. Just looking at some stuff. You understand. I'm looking at headlines as we go into this. But we'll just quickly run through them. So first and foremost, Gus Malzahn goes from UCF. Decides to leave UCF. He's going to be the new offensive coordinator at Florida State. Oh no, I'm never going to get used to Power 4 head coaches going to be offensive coordinators at other Power 4 schools. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I get you're probably tired, so from a lifestyle perspective, I mean, it's probably a little bit of an upgrade from that point of view. But otherwise, if you're tired of that lifestyle as a head coach, I'm not sure that's the person that you want to hire as the offensive coordinator. Basically, just ripping that one from Brandon Walker, I would say, because I do agree with that sentiment. That you're getting up there in the years, you just don't have the energy to be a head coach. Maybe you don't have the energy to coach anymore. That's something you might want to consider. Chip Kelly, I think, would have been much better with a better quarterback, quite frankly, and Will Howard, which he ain't it, by the way. But I mean, hey, we'll see. We'll see what Gus Malzahn does. He's going to bring the running game. It's up to Norvell and crew to get the players, so we'll see how it works out from there. But in addition to that, FSU also poached Nebraska defensive coordinator Tony White for the same role at Florida State. I can get that one. That's a bit of an upgrade job-wise, but there you go. You got Malzahn as the new offensive coordinator. Tony White is the new defensive coordinator. We'll see how it works out. I know Tony White, at the very least, was playing or coaching very well at Nebraska over the last couple of years. They've had a pretty consistently good unit since he came over there and coached there the last 2 years. So, hey, we'll see how it works out. They flipped one recruit from Mississippi State, so fuck you guys. But at the same time, maybe they're moving in the right direction. I'd say Norvell, it would behoove him to win a bunch of games next year. I'll just say that much. And he knows the stakes as well. Just like Ryan Day, he knows the stakes. Okay, so Ben Arbuckle, 29-year-old Washington State offensive coordinator, is going to Oklahoma to be their new offensive coordinator. Fun young hire here, 29 years old, just a year older than me. Dude, a Power 4 offensive coordinator. That Oklahoma offensive coordinator job, that's one where if you do well, next stop is head coach in the Power 4. So at 29 years old, that's impressive. That's real impressive. So good for him. We'll see if it works out for Brent Venables. It's been shaky this year. That's for sure. This was a year to forget. Mississippi State is keeping defensive coordinator Coleman Hutzler. That hurts. That's painful. Yeah, it's my only comment. Whatever, man. Purdue fired head coach Ryan Walters following a 1-11 season. I think he won 5 games over the course of 2 whole seasons there, so makes sense that he's gone. Also, West Virginia fired Neil Brown. That 1 year reprieve was nice, I guess, but ultimately, you're dead. You're done. Not actually dead. He's just done as the head coach of West Virginia. Maybe he'll be an offensive coordinator somewhere. Mike Leachtree guy. Rest in peace to the man. I believe it was the year anniversary for that. Or year anniversary is coming up. Or 2-year anniversary is coming up for his passing. So, hits me in the feels every single time. Hits me in the feels. Rest in peace, coach. Okay, so with that said, also forgot to mention it on Tuesday's episode, but Azeez Al-Shaair just came in and took Trevor Lawrence's head off. So he got suspended 3 games, appealed it. That's been upheld. I think he's missing out on like $300-some thousand. So pretty hefty fine, but yeah, it was a bit of a dirty play. There's a difference between accidentally, just not letting up on the way to the quarterback and not letting up enough on the way to the quarterback because he slides late. And there's also a difference between that and just launching yourself clearly after he had slid straight forearm first into his head, pounding his head into the turf. Trevor Lawrence, concussed as all hell, had the fencing response afterwards. So he was out cold pretty much. So yeah, that when you do something like that and it gets as much pub as it did, you should expect a expect a proportionate punishment, and that's really all I have to say on that. But let's get a drink here real quick. Let's regroup. Get a little time check. I think we're probably like 20 minutes in here. 30 actually, so we're going entirely too slow, but we're going to pick up the pace here a little bit, so just 1 second. Oh man, that is good. Gatorade tastes good right now. I don't know why. Thirsty boy, I'll tell you what. Okay, so Oregon State went on the road to Boise State. Boise State beat them 34-18 to clinch a spot. Whew, easy for me to say, in the Mountain West title game. They'll be facing off against UNLV, so that's going to be a dandy. The last one was an absolute banger. This one is sure to be an absolute banger as well, so you know your boy's going to be watching that. Come on. But that's good for them. They're pretty much, they're locked into the playoff if they win the conference. They still have to win the game next week, but I like their chances of doing it. Ashton Genty, 226 yards, 1 touchdown, 37 carries. His legs will fall off before he gets to the NFL at this rate. But hey, he's going after this year, so I guess ride him like a prized stallion. Words are hard today. Mississippi State goes on the road, and I just pulled up the wrong tab. Mississippi State went on the road to Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, and Mississippi State lost 26-14 to finish off a winless SEC season. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. Oklahoma State went on the road to Colorado, and they got dusted 52-0. Shedeur Sanders had 438 and 5 touchdowns. I believe Travis Hunter had himself another good game. He's well on his way to the Heisman at this point. He is minus like 50,000, it feels like, at this point, to win the Heisman. Yeah, Travis Hunter, 3 touchdowns, 10 receptions on offense. I believe he had an interception on defense, I want to say. I'd like to assert, maybe. Yes, Travis Hunter. He did get an interception in this game. Teammate DJ McKinney got a pick 6, but Travis Hunter did get an interception in this game. So, once again, elite on both sides of the ball. 116 yards and 10 catches and 3 touchdowns, plus the interception. Dude's a machine. Dude's an absolute machine, and he just makes plays. So that's good for Colorado. They should be happy with what they've done in the regular season. They'll get a nice little bowl out of this. Dion says he's probably going to be keeping his players in the bowl. Yet to be determined. We'll see if that all works out. But hey, 9-3, much better than I thought you would be. That's a lot to like here if you're Colorado, and especially with Julian Lewis coming in, 5-star true freshman. He'll probably start right out of the gate next season. The future is bright in Colorado still. The future is bright. 9-3 season. Little golf clap for you. Oregon finished off the regular season 12-0 with a 49-21 win over Washington. They'll face off against Penn State in this upcoming Big Ten championship game with the Ohio State loss in mind. Obviously, already talked about Michigan beating Ohio State. Texas went on the road to Texas A&M, another ranked matchup here. Texas won 17-7. Just an absolute snooze fest for the Texas A&M offense. I mean, kind of for Texas too, but for the Texas A&M offense in particular, it was not a good game. Texas ends up getting the win 17-7, as I said. The players started going out to plant the flag on Texas A&M's field, but ultimately Steve Sarkisian just gave them the eyes of a stone-cold killer, and they decided not to do that until after Texas A&M vacated the field, which that's, hey, good on Steve Sarkisian on that one, but that clinches Texas into the SEC title game, so they're pretty much in no matter what at this point. They're pretty well locked into the playoff. Texas A&M obviously out, finished the season 8-4. Damn good year for Mike Elko in year one. A lot of stuff to improve on. I'm thinking specifically quarterback play and just offense in general. It needs to be better going forward. The defense, solid base to build off of, and I assume that Mike Elko's only going to continue to acquire talent and get that into the fold over there. He's already shown he's a great developer of talent. So if he can just get guys on the defensive side of the ball, Texas A&M right now not that far off. We'll see how Marcel Reed develops as a passer. I think that's going to kind of be the measurement of where they can go next year, is how good he is at that. But no reason to hang your head if you're Texas A&M. This was a brutal one. You got to feel like absolute shit after this game because you hyped yourself up all week for it. But, hey, man, nothing to hang your hat about. Hang your head about. This was a great season for you, and it's only going to get better going forward. Connor Wigman in the transfer portal, by the way. You could have probably assumed that before I even said anything, but we move on from there. Penn State gets the win at home versus Maryland, 44-7. They finished the regular season 11-1, and they will be going to the Big Ten, not national championship game, the Big Ten championship game, pretty much locked into the playoff, though, as well. Don't you just love conference championship weekend with next to no stakes? Oh, it feels good. Oh, it makes you feel great inside, doesn't it? 12-team playoff, baby. You love that. You absolutely love it, don't you? Notre Dame gets a big win on the road at USC. They might have been in some trouble if they lost this game, but to take care of business, 49-35. USC was in this thing late. Then all of a sudden, two of the top 5 longest pick sixes in Notre Dame history happen as USC gets all the way down to the goal line, and Jaden Mayava throws a 100-yard pick six and a 99-yard pick six, and I believe back-to-back possessions to pretty much salt this thing away. Notre Dame, by the way, scored 35 points in the second half. USC scored 21, but 35 for Notre Dame. I think you're kind of seeing in this game that maybe the Notre Dame defense is a little bit overrated. Numbers kind of inflated by the fact that they played a dog shit schedule all year with a bunch of bad offenses on it. So again, it just comes back to what I've been saying. I don't know how good Notre Dame is, especially on defense, just because they haven't really played anyone. I think this is a good win for them against USC, especially with the defense coming up clutch late. But hey, they're going to get in the playoff. I'm fascinated to see what they do when they get there, because they're a good team. They're a real good team right now. It's just we're gonna find out how good they are. USC finishes 6-6. Lincoln Riley's not fired at this point, so I guess I'd be shocked if he was fired later, because if you're gonna do it, probably should have already done it at this point. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe that'll be a Friday news dump or something. I don't really know. But it seems like, as of right now, USC's probably keeping Lincoln Riley. So, hey, you probably got one more year. If you have another 6-6 season, you will be fired. If you have a 7-5 season, probably fired. 8-4 might be just barely the bare minimum to get you off the hot seat, but you're right back on it in 2026 at that point. Lincoln Riley's got to win games next season. And whether he does that with Jaden Mayava or whether he goes out in the transfer portal and gets someone else, he's got to make sure that quarterback position is locked down. Make sure Danton Lynn is not going any goddamn where, because he has been a revelation for this team on the defensive side of the ball. Been a little up and down, but I think he's shown the bones of this defense are good, and the scheme is good, much better than Alex Grinch was the last several years with Lincoln Riley, going all the way back to Oklahoma. So you got some work to do, USC, and you are going to be back up against the wall next season to keep your jobs. Let's see if they do it. I have not followed what they've been doing on signing day, but hey, they got the resources to go out and do it. It's just a matter of whether they do it. Oh boy, Miami. My goodness. Miami goes on the road to Syracuse, and I mean, you could see this upset potential coming from about a mile away. Syracuse with that offense, Miami with that god-awful defense, and ultimately that god-awful defense is what lost them the game. Syracuse gets the win 42-38 on, I believe, a last-second winner there from Syracuse. So, exciting game down the stretch in this one. And by the way, they hit the over, 80 total points. I think the over-under was like 68.5, and they still smashed it. That's the power of Miami, baby. That's the last time we're going to see that, too, because they ain't making the playoff anymore. That's the fallout from this game, which we'll talk about in a second. But I do have to mention, Syracuse, year one under Fran Brown, You finished the season 9-3, albeit in a weak ACC, but 9-3 is a damn good first year for Fran Brown. Kyle McCord finishes the regular season number 1 in passing yards. Let me get his full statistical profile here. 4,326 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions on the season. Damn good bounce back year for Kyle McCord after given the stanky boots from Ohio State the previous season. I don't know if they have Kyle McCord another year or if he's graduating after this one. He's one of those COVID guys, so I assume he's probably got one more year of eligibility. So Fran Brown building a good program there, and hey, you know he showered after this one because they won the game. That's winners get showered, winners get cleaned. But kudos to Syracuse. Let's talk Miami. So some changes have to be made, obviously. Now, on offense, let's call it like it is. You came this close. You almost got across the finish line, but you squandered having maybe the best quarterback in the entire country in Cam Ward because your defense was god-awful this year. And it wasn't just god-awful from a personnel standpoint, which it's not. They have talented players. It was god-awful from a scheme standpoint, god-awful from an effort standpoint. Everything that, is the glue that brings a team together, they weren't doing it on the defensive side of the ball all season. They're going to have to make a shakeup on the defensive staff. I don't know if they've officially fired their defensive coordinator yet, but it's only a matter of time at this point. So that's going to happen, I would say, and that's what you need to do going forward. You just got to be kicking yourself because barring a miracle at this point, Miami's not making the college football playoff. I mean, I believe they're number 12 in the new rankings, but Big 12 is going to steal a bid. They're going to be just barely, ever so slightly on the outside looking in, barring, some sort of chaos, I suppose, but I don't know what chaos would help them in this situation. So maybe the committee just sees them as good TV and they'll put them in. They don't deserve to be in the playoff, though, because if this was a truly playoff-worthy team, they would have won every single game on their schedule this year. Every single one. They dropped 2 games this season in Syracuse, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the other one was. Georgia Tech. By the way, not a bad couple of games there for Georgia Tech between the Miami win and taking Georgia down to the wire. Besides the point, though, it's 2 wins. I mean, you were favored in every single game this season from the word go. Essentially, you dropped 2 games that you should have won, and you were substantially favored in both of them. And it's due squarely. It's squarely on the shoulders of the defense, especially this one against Syracuse. Just embarrassing to be that bad with the personnel and the talent that they have on that side of the ball. Unacceptable. You just can't have it. So Miami's going to go to probably a pretty solid bowl game outside of the college football playoff. Everyone's going to be gone. Cam Ward's probably going to be prepping for the NFL draft. All of the draft worthy, Xavier Restrepo, I think he's draft eligible. He'll probably be prepping for the NFL draft. Anyone who has got some good draft stock, probably going to sit out of that game. So just call it like it is. You squandered a great opportunity with maybe the best quarterback in all of college football, though Shedeur Sanders does have something to say about that, I would say. But Cam Ward is spectacular, and you just squandered that this season. Nothing you can do about it now. Just what are you going to do going forward? Miami's in a good spot. You just got to hone in that coaching staff. It seems like you did okay on the offensive coordinator hire, but just get it together, Cristobal. That's all I ask. Just get it together, hire the right coaches, and the rest will take care of itself from here, because the rest of it is all in place at this point. Probably figure out a long-term solution. I don't know if you can keep going back to the QB carousel every single offseason, but QB situation, coaching staff, you get that right, you'll be right as rain, but you just squandered an opportunity this season, man. Call it like it is. Tennessee went on the road to Vanderbilt. They got the win 36-23. I had some real depressed Tennessee fans, shooting me texts and whatnot throughout the day whenever this first started, because Vandy jumped out right out of the gate to a 14-0 lead, and it looked like it might be a big-time upset and a playoff-shaking upset. Maybe Miami still is in the playoff if Tennessee loses this game. Unfortunately, Tennessee pulled it together. Nico throws for 4 touchdowns, 257. At the very least, showed what everyone was expecting of him throughout the season. Dylan Sampson, another 178-yard day. Dante Thornton, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns on just 3 catches. So Tennessee ends up burying them 36-23. They're pretty much locked into the playoff as well. They won't play this weekend in the SEC title game. So at 10-2, you're in all likelihood, unless something, wild and insane and ill-advised by the committee happens. They're in. So there you go. Will we see this Nico going forward? If you do, they might win the national title game. Even if you just get a fraction of this where he's just not turning the ball over, that defense can possibly win you a national title as well. Tennessee, legit contenders this year, and I still feel very strongly about that. So a team to watch, again, watch Nico. If he's playing like at the level that we expected him to play coming into this season, going into the playoff, I think they might be my pick to win the national title. It's between them and Oregon if Nico starts catching fire here. So a team to monitor going into the college football playoff, someone to keep an eye on. Vandy, you know what? You got to a bowl game. That's an achievement right there. Everyone thought you were going to be terrible, and you were just average, and that's good for you. Good for you. What's his name? It's not Jordan Mailata. Pavia, Diego Pavia. Hopefully they give him like a 15th year in college football so he can just keep making Hugh Freeze's life hell. That'd be fun. But yeah, good for you, Vanderbilt. Good for you. SMU took care of business. At least one team in the ACC took care of business over the weekend. One of the top teams. Obviously, Syracuse took care of business, but besides the point. SMU got the win 38-6 over Cal. They will be in the ACC title game, and with Miami's loss, they will be facing Clemson in the ACC title game. So playoff spot on the line. Interested to see what would happen if Clemson won that game, but all of that in due time. Just a big-time disappointment from Miami. But again, I digress on that front. Purdue goes on the road to Indiana, and Indiana just ran them off the football field, out of the state, quite frankly, 66-0. Ryan Walters' firing came right on the heels of this. Curtis Rourke threw for 349 and 6 touchdowns. Yes, 6 touchdowns, folks. It was a bloodbath. Indiana also most likely in the college football playoff, barring something crazy happening. South Carolina goes on the road to Clemson. And I'll tell you what, man, South Carolina, one of the hottest teams in all the nation, they get another win on the road in a big-time road environment in Death Valley at Clemson. They get the win 17-14. And I'll tell you what, as far as a passing day from Lenore Sellers, not good. 13-21, 164 yards, 7.8 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, an interception. And he also lost a fumble as well. So on the surface, doesn't look too crazy. But also, he ended up getting over 300 yards of offense because he took 16 carries for 166 yards, 10.4 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. And that was the reason that South Carolina won this game on Saturday. Plain and simple. Lenore Sellers won them this football game. First year as a starter. I believe he's a redshirt freshman, I want to say. Former 3-star recruit. Can run for days. Has a competitive fire that you just love to see on the sidelines there. And I'll tell you what, man. The NFL is watching Lenore Sellers. The NFL is absolutely watching right now. Because with the running ability alone, that's going to catch some eyes. It's going to catch some attention. This game was not indicative of how Lenore Sellers has been as a passer, especially down the stretch of this season. He's been downright efficient at times as a passer, and I'm telling you right now, he's probably got another. If he has a year where he just goes off next year at South Carolina, maybe he comes back for a senior year. But if he comes out after a big time year next year, I think he's a first round pick. Excuse me. Had to sneeze. That one popped up right out of nowhere. But Yeah, so if he has a big time year next year and shows, improvement, I think he could be a first round pick. He's that good. He's that talented. And to go from a 3-star to where he's at now, it's a testament to his work ethic. It's a testament to just how good of a player he is. I am very interested to see what next year looks like for South Carolina, because they're stacking up to have one of those window seasons where if they can just hit the lottery in the transfer portal a little bit and get a good recruiting class in there, they're not far off from competing for a playoff spot, and they're really not that far out of it this year, though they're not going to make it because of the losses that they have, that being to Alabama and Ole Miss specifically. Also Texas A&M, who's not in the playoff. So yeah, there's that for this season. This regular season's probably done. Looking forward to next year, though, the future is real bright for South Carolina, and especially with Lenora Sellers. They could be a sneaky contender next year. Don't be shocked if you see Lenora Sellers throwing for, 66% completion percentage, throwing for anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 yards, 1,000 yards on the ground, just having a borderline Heisman season. Don't be shocked if that happens and South Carolina is right on the cusp of the playoff, if not well in that thing. It's not that far off from where they're at right now. They finished the season on a tear this year. So a team to watch going forward. Golf clap for the season to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Go Cox, baby. Go Cox. As far as the Clemson Tigers, they finished the season 9-3, but lo and behold, they lucked out because Miami decided to just dirty diarrhea in the bed as opposed to clean diarrhea, I suppose. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I digress. So since Miami decided to shit down their leg, Clemson, even though they lost at home, still going to the ACC title game. So they'll play with SMU on Saturday for a trip to the college football playoff, because the model we currently use is dumb as shit, and you people are dumb as shit for accepting it. And that's as heated as I will get on the matter. But this playoff, I'm not going to say it sucks, but the playoff format kind of sucks. I'll just say that. Hold out some judgment until we actually play the games, but the format itself, the auto bids, suck. Real fucking bad. Clemson shouldn't be a playoff team. If they get to the playoff, they may lose by 50 to whoever they play, though there's no team good enough to run them off the field in that way this season. Georgia could play him again and probably beat him by 30 again, because Clemson's just not a very good football team. And Dabo Swinney is just, he chaps my ass, dude. That smug son of a bitch, always with that little wry smile in his press conferences, always playing the victim. It's because you're an annoying bastard and you refuse to adapt with the times. I got kind of cranky all of a sudden here. But we all know the problems with Clemson. I don't have to relitigate them here. The choice is yours, Dabo. Do you want to adapt with the times and change and bring Clemson back to glory? Or do you just want to hang around like 10-2, 9-3, go to the playoffs every so often, but never go anywhere of note when you get there? Choice is yours, and I'll leave it at that. Choice is yours. Okie dokie. Where's my mouse? There it is. Okie doke. So, we'll keep it moving from there. Pause that video because I don't want it playing. Okay, found it again. Alabama took care of business versus Auburn. This was a sneaky spot, but they did not pull a Texas A&M. They focused up at the right time, got the win 28-14. Jalen Milroe rushes for 3 touchdowns, and Alabama just by the skin of their teeth, just barely in right now. And they're probably locked in there, barring an unexpected outcome in the ACC championship, that being Clemson beating SMU. Not that far-fetched given the line on that one, but still, barring that possibility, probably just barely in. They're not that good. I don't really trust them when they get in the playoff, but hey, it'll keep the Bama fans off Kalen DeBoer's back for a little bit longer, so I'm sure he's real happy about that. Auburn, Hugh, buddy. Hugh Freeze, I'm talking to you right here. It's you and me. You better win some fucking games next year, man, because your ass is grass. If you don't win, I'd say at least 8 games next year, go into the goddamn transfer portal for a quarterback. Tell John Cohen to stop stealing Mississippi State's fucking coaches. Stop being lazy and interview some new people, you lazy-ass old man. I really am getting cranky. I'll tell you what, I'm starting to yell at people. John Cohen's on my shit list, though, man. It's already rough being a Mississippi State fan right now. I don't need you stealing our soccer coach and just being a general lazy piece of shit. I'm a little salty. But still, John Cohen, go fucking interview someone else, okay, man? Go interview someone you haven't already interviewed before. How's about that? Stop drinking coffee and staring off in the middle distance all day and do some goddamn work when you're in the office. Okay, so with that said, I accidentally clicked on Cam Scadaboo. He's got 17 rushing touchdowns this year, if you weren't aware. But that is because the next one up, Arizona State, goes on the road to Arizona and never gives Arizona an ounce of air. They win 49-7. Scadaboo had 3 touchdowns and 177 yards on the ground in this game. Sam Levitt, 17-22, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns. That Kenny Dillingham offense is really starting to show itself, starting to look a lot like what we saw at Oregon, and Arizona State is moving right now. They're in the Big 12 championship. They finished the season 10-2. And Kenny Dillingham, for my money, probably the coach of the year. He's done an incredible job in year 2. Arizona State was a god-awful football team last year. No two ways about it. They finished 3-9. They were terrible. They had Jaden Rashada transfer this offseason, but just a quiet confidence coming into this one. Obviously, they start the year with a bunch of wins. I think they start the year like 3-0 or something like that, and they just keep it moving from there. All of a sudden, in a chaotic Big 12, Arizona rises to the top. And I told y'all at the beginning of this season, the Big 12 is just, primed for chaos. And I wouldn't be shocked if one of the bottom teams came up and won this thing. And what do you know? Arizona State goes from 3-9 to 10-2. They win. They don't win the conference, but they're in the conference championship game, facing off against Iowa State, it would turn out to be. Arizona, Brent Brennan. Your name is fun to say, so I wish you were better, but I think you might suck. And Arizona might have made a mistake. They've just made a series of mistakes in the athletic department there, to the tune of several $1 million lost. Arizona. You know, if you go to Arizona, I don't know how broken up you are about the football team being bad, because you go to Arizona, man. It's probably one of the more fun schools to go to in all of the land. So, with that said, we'll move on to the other member of the Big 12 that's going to the championship game. Most awkward way to say that possible, but we keep it moving. Kansas State goes on the road to Iowa State, and Iowa State gets the win 29-21. They win the 2024 Farmageddon. No driving snowstorm this year. No 45-42 barn burner. Still, solid little game here down the stretch. Avery Johnson threw an astonishing 12 of 28 for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns. Fun stuff there. Iowa State punches their ticket to the Big 12 championship game. Not quite as consistently good as they were expected to be coming in, but you're in a win and you're in scenario. No matter what, the Big 12 is stealing a bid, so it really doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't really matter what the seeding is. It doesn't have a whole lot of impact in the playoff, because it's already baked in to what we're anticipating here. But it's going to be a huge game. The Big 12 championship, I assume it's going to be just as fun as the rest of the regular season. So I'm looking forward to that. I really, really am. BYU, at the very least, finished the season on a win. They're 10-2 after a 30-18 win over Houston. Big time year from Kalani Sitake there with BYU Cougs. BYU, Jake Retzloff, I don't think he's all that good. He went like 8 of 19 in this game for 167 yards. you could probably stand to improve there. But hey, hell of a season from BYU. Great regular season. You don't have a snowball's chance in hell of making the postseason at this point. But hey, 10-2 deserves a golf clap. This is a golf clap episode right here, folks. We're thinking positively, with the exception of a couple stinkers out there. Arkansas goes on the road to Missouri, and Missouri just refuses to die in terms of the college football playoff rankings. They get the win 28-21. I wish they would go away, but by God, they just refuse to do so. Their schedule is just so bad. And yeah, Missouri finishes the regular season 9-3. I'm not going to give you a golf clap because you were expected to be much better than you actually were. So hey, be better. You kind of squandered a chance with Luther Burden in there. I think we kind of found out that Brady Cook might not be quite so good, and also that Missouri defense leaving some stuff to be desired there. But Missouri gets the win. They finish the regular season 9-3. Arkansas 6-6. I'd say right at about expectations. I think Sam Pittman probably keeps his job another year at this rate. UNLV took care of business versus lowly Nevada, 38-14. In this game. Another guy that I haven't really been following, but also might not be that good. Haj Malik Williams, 14 of 21, 168. 8 yards per attempt, so not too bad. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, so maybe I was a little bit harsh. Didn't turn the ball over once, and ultimately ran for 100 yards. Okay, so Haj Malik Williams is still very good. I take back what I said there. But 352 yards on the ground, 8.6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns for UNLV in this game. I am so looking forward to that rematch between Boise State and UNLV. It's going to be a real treat whenever they play each other. I'm counting down the hours to that one. It might be the best game in the conference championship weekend, quite possibly. I'm hoping for a banger. I'm hoping for a banger. So with that though, we keep it moving. And Illinois finished the regular season 9-3 after a 38-28 win over Northwestern. So hey, good for you. That's really all I have to say. Good for you. Bielema ball is all the way back. I hope he just keeps on getting better and better. I love to see Bielema ball in action. But hey, 9-3. Solid little season for Illinois. Probably right around where you expected to be coming into the year. So let's see if you can get even better next year. I think they're losing some players, so that'll be difficult. But good program that Bielema's built up there in Illinois. That being said, that'll round out the top 25. So let's go around college football. There also, it kind of goes without saying, some of those games I mentioned, they had field stormings. Not field stormings. They had the flag planting, brawls happening. Whatever. I can't remember exactly which ones they were, frankly, because I didn't watch them all. I didn't really watch most of them, but still. Okay. So we'll talk about the ACC. San Jose State beat Stanford. Boy, are times tough at Stanford right now. Also, San Jose State loses their head coach and improves. Brent Brennan might have been a dud hire by Arizona, but we move on from there. Anything else we missed? Louisville beat Kentucky. They're 8-4 after a 41-14 win. Maybe not quite as good of a year as Louisville would have hoped, but Jeff Brom, year 3. We'll see what he does in year 3. But it looks like they're probably going back to the QB carousel and the transfer portal here once again, but we'll see. We'll see there. Jeff Brom's a hell of a coach, so I think he's going to continue to improve that program there. Duke beat Wake Forest to finish 9-3 in the regular season as well, 23-17. Hey, Manny Diaz, year 1, 9-3. You got something to build off of, and I think they're moving in the right direction. So, might want to make some improvements on the offensive side of the ball, but hey, you keep on doing what you're doing on the defensive side, hey, good things can happen. Good things can happen for sure. Pittsburgh, man, boy, did they fall fast. I think they started the season 7-0, I want to say. They finished the season on a 5-game losing streak. Boston College got the win against them at home, 34-23. Yeah, that bottom just fell out for Pittsburgh. Once they started playing some actually okay teams, man, they got exposed fast. But yeah, Boston College 7-5 in butt chin Bills year 1, not bad. Not bad. We'll see what kind of players they bring in this offseason. He got there late last offseason. He's a hell of a coach, though. I think he's going to do a great job there at Boston College, and we'll see what he does from there. But I think in a couple years, I think people are going to be shocked where Boston College is at. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that because that could be either positive or negative. I'm covered. My ass is all the way covered. I got pants on right now. My ass is covered. I'll tell you what. NC State went on the road to North Carolina, and they got the win 35-30. North Carolina obviously looking for a new head coach. Now that Mac Brown is out of there, we'll see what they do. That's a big time job, though. We've already talked about it, so I won't belabor the point. That's a huge job, though, in North Carolina. I'm hoping Lane Kiffin takes it. No information on that whatsoever. I'm wish casting right now. Florida gets the win over Florida State, 31-11. Florida State finishes the season 2-10. They stink. Total revamp in the coaching staff. We'll see what it does next season. But Florida, man, I'll tell you what. Billy Napier's acquitted himself nicely this season. DJ Lagway saved his job. There's no other way to put it. They hit on that recruit, I believe former 5-star, at the very least high 4-star quarterback. They hit on that recruit. DJ Lagway is spectacular. I believe this is his second season, I want to say. So you got at least one more year. I think you probably only have one more year with him because that's a guy that if he has a better year next year, he's probably going to go in the first round, I would say. At the very least in like the first 3 rounds, because DJ Lagway played great down the stretch of this season. He's been really good all season, pretty much. I mean, in this one, not crazy numbers. He only had, -8 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but they won the damn game 31-11. They still rushed for 6.2 yards per carry, 235 yards on the ground as well. Okay, that brawl was just because Norvell initially snubbed Napier's handshake after the game. That's rivalry week, baby. That's fucking rivalry week. I love that. I love that stuff. Just pure unadulterated hate. Don't let them tell you it's about anything different. It's all about the hate. It is all about the hate. But Florida, moving in the right direction. They might be primed for a little solid year next year. A program to watch. Hey, Billy Napier, you did just okay enough at the right time to stick around for a little while longer. Let's see if he capitalizes on the momentum next year. Seemingly they're moving in the right direction, though, so that is encouraging to see if you are a Florida fan, which I am not. Virginia Tech beat Virginia 37-17. This was a game for bowl eligibility. Virginia finishes the season 5-7. They are not bowl eligible. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, 6-6, are bowl eligible. It's a disappointing season, though, man. They were expected to be a playoff dark horse coming in, and those hopes were dashed about as quickly as they possibly could be in Game 1 versus Vandy, and it just spiraled from there. Brent, I think it's Brent Pry is the head coach at Virginia Tech. Just expected more. Expected more this season. Disappointment. He's not going to lose his job, but I would officially put him on a hot seat watch if he starts having some things unravel next season. So that's something to watch, but that's the ACC. We will move on from there over to the Big 12. I'm sure there's stuff we missed in the Big 12. Utah beat UCF 28-14, and mark it there, folks. That's the game that drove Gus Malzahn out of town. 28 points given up to Utah. That's real bad. And, of course, you squandered having Rufus Harvey, who I think is going to be pretty good in the league next year. But different discussion for a different time. Utah finishes the season 5-7, UCF 4-8. Outside of that, Baylor made me look like a fool. They won against Kansas 45-17. They finished on a scorcher this season, man. Sawyer Robertson has played really well down the stretch. He had 4 touchdowns, 310 yards, 10 yards per attempt on the dot in this game. He was slinging the ball. Washington, the running back for Baylor, had 192 on the ground. Dave Aranda saved his job. People aren't really going to talk about that, but Dave Aranda absolutely saved his job down the stretch with how they played this season. I don't know. Are they going to get Sawyer Robertson for another year? He's a junior, so yeah, they can. He's probably coming back for another year unless he enters the transfer portal unexpectedly. But hey, nice little junior year for him. 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 2,600 yards. That's a damn good season for him. That's a really, really good season for Sawyer Robertson. So I'm rooting for the kid. At one point in time, he was a quarterback for Mississippi State, and he was supposed to be the next guy. So hey, I'm rooting for him. That's not tongue in cheek whatsoever. I legitimately hope for the best, and I hope he has success. Lord knows he'd be in hell if he was still with Mississippi State. So hey, by all means, young man, just explore the space and continue to improve. I'm real happy to see what he's doing over there with Baylor. Texas Tech absolutely ran West Virginia off the field, but Neil Brown out of the state of West Virginia with a win. What the hell button did I press? I went back to the ACC somehow. But yeah, Texas Tech gets the win 52-15. Obviously running Neil Brown out of town in that one. And this is why you shouldn't bet on these high over-unders. It was a fun over-under for sure, but they scored 67 points total, and I believe they still hit the under. I want to say that the line was 67.5 coming in, maybe 68.5 coming in. So that's why you don't bet those high overs. That's, a little word to the wise. Taj Brooks, by the way, ended the season with 3 touchdown, 188-yard game. That's another guy that's going to be an absolute monster at the next level. Texas Tech finishes 8-4 on the season. Not a bad year, but in the Big 12, 8-4 is kind of the equivalent of like 5-7 or worse in the SEC. So not a fantastic year for Texas Tech. They didn't play their 5-star true freshman wide receiver. I think Cody Hudson was the name of the kid at all this year, basically. So he entered the transfer portal. Not a fantastic year for Joey McGuire, but you rounded into shape down the stretch. We'll see what they look like without Taj Brooks. He's been carrying the entire team on his back for quite some time now, and I don't think you're going to have him a whole lot longer. So good luck, Joey. Good luck. TCU finishes the season 8-4 as well, which should show you, what you need to know about the Big 12. 8-4, 22-13 win over Cincinnati, who finishes 5-7. With that said, let's move on from there. What do we got next? We got the Big 10, of course. Minnesota beat Wisconsin in a particularly sad game, 24-7. Hey, you better nail that hire at the offensive coordinator, Luke Fickell, because it's going to be real uncomfortable next season for you, pretty much no matter what. It would behoove you to nail that one. Also, Iowa, I'm getting all sorts of thoughts in my head at the same time. Like 15 different things are running through my mind when I think about this game. Iowa, for much of the season, was scoring a lot more points than they were expected to score. In this game, they went back to classic Iowa football to win Paul Bunyan. Nope, not Paul Bunyan's axe. I forget the trophy for this game. I really do. I forget the trophy for this game, and I apologize for that, but we're just going to keep it moving and not acknowledge my mistake whatsoever. Iowa generally has been doing okay on offense this year. They had 5 first downs in this game. 5 first downs in this game, and they won 13-10. That's Iowa football, baby. That is Iowa football. All you needed was one big play from Caleb Johnson, like a 70-some yard touchdown, and you just get a couple field goals, and boom, there you go. Iowa hits the under to end off the regular season. They finish off 8-4. Not quite as great as they've been in past years, but still, Kirk Ferentz, he's going to win you like a minimum of 8 games pretty much every year, no matter what he's got on the plate. He's just a good head coach. You wish he would adapt a little bit more on offense, but he's just a solid head coach, man, and he's been for literally the entirety of my life. So we'll keep it moving from there. Anything we're missing outside of the itch on my nose? I don't want to pull that up. Go away. My goodness. Rutgers beat Michigan State 41-14. Showing no mercy. You're not letting those green men go in there and get a win for bowl eligibility. No sirree. They get the win. They finished the year 7-5. I always forget that Ethan Kaliak-Manis is the quarterback for Rutgers, and winning 7 games with that guy as your quarterback is an achievement. So shout out to you, Rutgers. Shout out Greg Schiano. Michigan State, whole hell of a lot of work to do, but you already know that. And also UCLA beat Fresno State 20-13. They finished the season 5-7, which honestly I think is pretty significantly better than what they were expected to be coming into the season, especially with the way they started. I kind of expect them to be like a 2 or 3 win team. 5, that's an achievement. That's an achievement. Deshaun Foster, you got yourself a good little base to build off of. Just maybe invest in some media training. That's all I can ask for at this point, because I mean I've not really watched the press conferences since, but that Big Ten media day, whoo, oh boy, looked like he had never seen people before in his entire life. Okay, that's it for the Big Ten. Let's talk about the SEC to round this thing out. What are we doing on time? Hour 14. Gotcha. Yeah, we're gonna speed this thing up a little bit. Okay, anything going on in the SEC we didn't talk about? LSU beat Oklahoma 37-17 to finish 8-4. Especially with Bryce Underwood decommitting. Garrett Nussmeier probably QB1 in 2024, which continuity is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think LSU fans were kind of hoping to upgrade at that position. So he's probably going to be sussy for Nussy for one more year. But hey, you finished the season 8-4. Not good. Finished below expectations. Brian Kelly probably keeping his job, though, when it's all said and done. If he hasn't lost it yet, he's probably not going to lose it. Oklahoma, Brent Venables, I know you just got an extension this last offseason, but you better win some games next year, buddy. You better nail that offensive quarterback. Ben Arbuckle better be just as good as he was at Washington State if you want to keep this thing afloat. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say on that front. With that said, that is all for Week 14, Rivalry Week in college football. So, with that said, let's just take a look at what the slate holds for next week, shall we? So, we'll skip over the Conference USA Championship game because no one truly cares about that. But we got a little slate on Friday here. So, got the Western Kentucky-Jacksonville State game at 7 o'clock. That's the Conference USA game. Then we got a nice little dandy here at 8 o'clock. As is tradition, UNLV and Boise State playing on Friday night, 8 o'clock there on Fox. Of course, this time, at the very least, they put it on Fox Main instead of whatever it was last time, CBS Sports Network, and a disgusting abomination to put it on that network with how good of a game it was. But we get the rematch, UNLV at Boise State. Boise is favored by 4 in this game. Slight lean to Boise in this one, but at the end of the day, they didn't quite meet the criteria to bet them, so I stayed away. One thing I did bet on, and you can actually get a better number on it now, is the over. I'm nothing if not stubborn. I'm betting that over one more time in this game. It's at 57.5 now. I got it at 58.5, so for the purposes of integrity, I'm taking it where my money is at 58.5 on the over for UNLV Boise State. I think this time around, we're going to get a banger. It was, kind of a banger last time, but we're going to get a scorcher this time. I think this might be the most entertaining game of the weekend, though the Big 12 championship game is going to have something to say about that. Oh my God, I'm so itchy. Holy shit. My goodness. Okay, so Tulane at Army. Tulane's favored by 5. I guess lean to Tulane in that one. Army's really not faced anyone all season. And of course, we've got Iowa State at Arizona State, and I'm realizing now as I'm saying this and the words are coming out of my mouth that I did not hit on the college football playoffs. So it's going to be awkward, but we're just going to go through the slate for next week, get the picks out there, and then we're just going to circle back around to the college football playoff to end this thing off. Okay, all right? Okay, good. Iowa State is on the road at Arizona State. We already locked in actually, no, we didn't lock in anything on this game. Arizona State is favored by 2. I think that's an appropriate line because I don't know what the hell is going to happen in this game. I guess slight lean to Arizona State, but this is going to be a dandy. This is going to be a real dandy. I'm very tempted to bet the over at 49.5, but ultimately refrained from it, but just enjoy this one. No matter what, it's going to steal a bid in the college football playoff. It's just going to be fun football, I think, so enjoy. That's my recommendation to you. Then also at noon, we've got Ohio at Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship game. This one's for the true D-Gens out there. Shout out to Ohio, still being 9-3 after losing Curtis Rourke. They're just a MAC powerhouse right now, man. They just win no matter what, dude. Also, 2 Ohio teams going into the MAC championship. I mean, it makes sense because it feels like half the conference is from Ohio. But at the same time, hey, shout out to the boys. I think Miami of Ohio is actually like right down the road from me. It couldn't be far, but this game's in Detroit anyway, so it doesn't matter. Not picking that game. I don't know anything about either of those teams, quite frankly. Georgia is playing against Texas in Atlanta. Kind of a home game for them. Kind of bullshit that they just get it in Atlanta every single year and they can just pack out the stands. But besides the point, huge matchup in this game. Texas is favored by 2.5 in this one, despite Georgia coming into their house during the season and just running them off the football field. Or maybe that was a Georgia. I can't quite remember at this point. It was so long ago. Who cares? Tickets as low as $115 for this game, actually. Not a bad get-in price for an SEC championship game, but I digress on that front. The lean is to... I don't have a hard lean either way, so I'm not betting it, but... Slight lean to Texas. I think the defensive front has acquitted itself nicely over the last several weeks since Georgia ran them off the field. I think you're going to get better play from the quarterbacks in this game. So give me Texas minus 2.5. No real bet, but that's my pick on that one. Marshall and Louisiana play seemed only appropriate to mention them, I suppose. Penn State at Oregon. Again, this is another one just for seeding in the college football playoff. Obviously, we've already locked in Oregon at 3.5. I think Oregon is a better team than Penn State. Penn State historically is kind of shriveled up in these moments. I don't know if they're going to shrivel up necessarily. It might be a close game, but I expect Oregon to win and I expect Oregon to cover when this is all said and done. Penn State's still in the college football playoff, though. It's a guarantee at this point. And then, of course, we have got Clemson at SMU. We locked in SMU minus 2.5 earlier this week, and it's still right there if you are still interested in pursuing that one. So, yeah, I think sneaky maybe play on the, actually, no, I looked at the trends. There's no real trends on the over-under there for these teams in this situation. So, yeah, stayed away from that, but SMU minus 2.5, I just think they're a better football team than what Clemson has. Maybe Clemson has a few more high star athletes in there, but SMU's a better football team. I expect them to take care of business, so that's why we bet them at minus 2.5. In addition to those, I've got 2 more from the NFL to add for you. So first off, we're taking the Bengals minus 5.5 at the Cowboys on Monday night. Don't feel fantastic about it, but the trends are favorable as all hell in this one. It is screaming to take the Bengals in this one, so I'm doing it. Minus 5.5, it's a lot of points, but the Bengals do win games on the road. So we're going to trust them to do it here. We're riding with them at minus 5.5. Also, same game, Monday night. It's the only game that I felt like warranted betting on. I feel like the lines are pretty well locked in this week for me to not bet on them, at least publicly. Over 49.5. It was really kind of more screaming bet the over than it was bet on the Bengals in this game. Sorry, my nose, I just have some of these itch fits from time to time. So yeah, over 49.5, and just a quick roundup of the picks. We got 5 this week, a little bit of a slimmer card, but there's not a million college football games to bet on, so obviously we're going to have a few less this week. With that said, though, we got SMU minus 2.5 versus Clemson, Oregon minus 3.5 versus Penn State, UNLV, Boise State over 58.5, Bengals minus 5.5 at the Cowboys on Monday night, and over 49.5 in that game as well. May your bets be profitable. We're looking to go 5-0 this week. That being said, I skipped right over the college football playoffs, so we're going to do those rankings, react to them, and then we're going to get our sweet little patooties out of here. Yeah. I need to get the hell off the mic right now. Anywho's, so let's go through the top 25, shall we? We'll go from 25 to 1. Just kind of read them off here. So Memphis sneaks into the top 25 with their win over Tulane. Army is at 24 and Colorado is at 23, confusingly right next to each other. Didn't notice that they have almost the exact same color scheme. It's wild looking at the logos here on my computer screen. Syracuse, welcome to the top 25. They are number 22 this week. Illinois moves up to 21. UNLV moves up to 20. Missouri moves up to 19. They just refuse to die. I hate them. I don't like them. I don't really like Eli Drinkwitz. I don't like the cut of his jib, but they're up at 19. Boise State's at 18. Clemson at 17. Iowa State at 16. Arizona State at 15. Then you're getting into bubble territory here. We got South Carolina at 14, pretty definitively out, being all the way at 14. Ole Miss at 13. And then Miami at 12. Those are your bubble teams. Those are the first ones out. Ole Miss, ha ha ha, your dreams are dead. You put together a great team, and then your coach pisses it away. Shame on you. May God have mercy on your souls. Ha ha ha. I was going to say I win, but I'm a Mississippi State fan. We don't really do that a whole lot. So, hey, you guys fell short, and that makes me laugh. Ha ha ha. Yeah, Miami squandered things. There's nothing really left to say there. Alabama at 11 is interesting. But of those four teams, Bama, Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina, they've got the best resume. So that's probably the best one to put in there at 11. Barring something catastrophic in the ACC championship game from an Alabama's perspective, they're probably locked in there at that final seed or the 11 seed in the playoff. So with that, your playoff is pretty much as follows. Like, not really a whole lot of drama going into the last week. I think it's pretty clear cut as to who is going to make it. So, as it stands right now, the rankings are as follows. Alabama at 11. Obviously, the winner of the Arizona State and Iowa State game will go to the college football playoff. So that's still yet to be determined. That's really the biggest piece of drama this weekend, I would say. Still, the Mountain West game is a play-in game, but which, by the way, if UNLV wins that game, we could start having some real conversations. Indiana is the next next mantle to hang on the wall, so to speak. So watch out. Danger is on the horizon there. It's not just money on the rise. It's danger on the rise as well if you are Indiana in that spot. That's why that UNLV Boise State game is so fascinating. But as of right now, Boise State at number 10. Indiana at number 9. SMU climbs up a spot to number 8. Tennessee follows suit at 7. Iowa State falls down to 6 after their loss to Michigan. Still pretty much locked into the playoff at this point. Georgia is at 5. Notre Dame moves up into the 4 spot, but they are not eligible for a first-round bye because they don't have a conference. They don't have a conference championship game. But they'll pretty much locked into the 5 seed at this point with what they've done. Penn State is at number 3. Texas is at number 2, and Oregon is at number 1. So the playoff is pretty much all those teams I just said, and the winners of Boise State, UNLV, and Arizona State and Iowa State. And I don't disagree with the rankings, quite frankly, and it's such a waste of time maneuver to argue the bubble for the 12-team playoff because they're not going to win the national championship. Like, if you're on the bubble in the 4-team playoff, you're still the number 5 or number 6 team in the country. You can still conceivably win the whole thing. The number 11, 12 team in the nation ain't winning the national championship game. And if they do, it's not going to be some fun Cinderella story. It's going to be an Alabama or an Ole Miss or a Miami getting hot at the right time and just going on a run, playing up to the level of their talent, the level that they should have been playing out through the course of this season. So I don't care. Include Alabama, include Miami, include Ole Miss, shit. Include South Carolina for that matter. I just don't give a shit about that last spot in the playoff. And ultimately, the playoff's pretty much locked in right there. And I kind of agree with the rankings. You can quibble about it if you're on the bubble, but just take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, look, being in the playoff would be great. But at the same time, I ain't going to do shit when I get there. So, does it matter? The answer to that question is unequivocally no in my mind. So, yeah, there's your playoff. There's our discussion about it. And with that, thank you all so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. This has been the Thursday edition of Unqualified Analysis. I've really stumbled over my words today, so I really do apologize for that. But we do this thing twice a week. College football on Thursdays, NFL on Tuesdays. Got the old order in there for a second. I just went on autopilot. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. If you enjoyed, go ahead, subscribe, share with every friend that you have, every relative, every acquaintance, every person that you meet on a bus even. Just share it with them. And rate 5 stars and help me grow this thing going forward. I very much appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at CalebVUA. Link to that will be down in the description. Also in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see my @ displayed conveniently right there. So you go and follow me. That would be appreciated, I suppose. And then outside of that, you can hit me up either in the DMs or at the email, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. That's down in the description as well. So with that, thank you all so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got just about no clue what I'm talking about, but one thing I learned this week, hot off the presses, baby, 85 to 95% of the weight of a rocket designed to launch into space, that is fuel. Rocket fuel makes up 85 to 90% of the weight of a rocket. Wild stat. That's the rocket equation, by the way. You want to make the actual craft light because you need a shit ton of fuel to just make it out of the atmosphere. So there you have it. You learned something new today. I'm gonna go edit this thing. I don't know. Who's to say? Maybe I'll eat dinner by 9:30 tonight. Could be fun. But yeah, I will talk to y'all on Tuesday, and we will be reacting to some NFL, and then of course we'll be reacting to college on Thursday. But until then, I'll talk to y'all later. Doses.